India has a history of disrupting agreements and acting recklessly. Well, we are not talking about the internal agreements it breaks with its own private firms, but the international agreements it does with multinational and multi-billion-dollar companies. Recently, we saw how Foxconn, the major Apple supplier, ended an agreement to establish a factory in India. Perhaps India does not know how devastatingly it impacts its reputation on the international stage. Well, a more recent India deal fallout was with Chinese drone giant DJI. It turns out that this has something to do with India's not-so-long-ago deal for electric buses with China's BYD. BYD knew India's history and how its governments have a history of blackmailing foreign firms. Therefore, it wisely asked for an advance deposit before delivering goods, a sensible move given the uncertain trust. Surprisingly, Indian officials, quick to blame, accused BYD of breaking international business rules, conveniently ignoring their own actions. Now a massive 1.5 billion rupee drone deal remains uncertain as DJI steadfastly rejects India's attempts to change its position. The familiar story of India's conflicts with China echoes, but this time, their boldness faces an immovable obstacle. The Indian Ministry of Defense, perhaps too confident, asked DJI for 800 drones worth 1.5 billion rupees. DJI's response was clear. It said it won't sell unless it gets 100% advance payment. This was a fair demand since DJI could not trust India. It did not want to deliver drones and waste its resources on court proceedings, aimed at getting the funds from the Indian government. Despite the financial gain, DJI's unwavering refusal has disrupted India's plans, leaving observers puzzled. As India continues its turbulent journey, recent reports show unease within its ranks. Desperate attempts to engage with DJI and efforts to save face reveal growing anxiety. Well, even after complex negotiations, India faces deadlocks. To their dismay, DJI, the clever strategist, remains firm. India's assertion fades as DJI demands full payment before delivery. Perhaps India should have accepted this, as China has already banned exporting its cutting-edge precise defense drones. Now, the Indian Defense Ministry is in a stalemate. Since China is not offering drones to the US and Europe, India does not even have the option to get DJI drones from them too. Hence, we see a gap in India's defense tactical movement and traditional warfare, where drones are crucial. The world has already seen in the Ukraine-Russia war that the side having drones will have the upper hand. It's because even if nuclear weapons are not used, traditional warfare still demands cutting-edge technology. The military has to harmlessly know where the enemy forces are residing without losing any soldiers for spying. For this, drones are exceptional. Now, even with 1.5 billion rupees, India finds itself stuck in its own mess. But another concern raised in India: why not have another drone maker? Well, the answer is, for defense purposes, DJI's drones are unparalleled. Not only that, but DJI accounts for 77% of the global drone market. This allows DJI to manufacture state-of-the-art drones that use laser-sharp precision. Years of manufacturing have allowed DJI to use its experience in creating drones no other company can. That's why the US Army was using DJI drones until 2017, after which it banned them due to escalating tensions between China and the US. The Indian Army also has a taste of using DJI drones like Mavic Air, an aerial asset capable of tactical reconnaissance and artillery calibration up to 10 kilometers away. Recent sightings of DJI drones on the Russian front line further underscore their prowess. Industry experts concur that India's intention to bolster its defense capabilities through the acquisition of DJI drones has hit a roadblock, dealing a substantial blow to India's aspirations. DJI's perplexing response of refusing to sell carries a poignant message. The Indian market carries elevated risks, and the Indian government cannot be trusted. You should know that DJI's stance is not an isolated incident. A similar pattern of conduct emerged in India's dealings with Huawei. As the China-India relationship underwent deterioration, India conveniently invoked national security concerns to bar operators from buying 5G equipment from Huawei. That was unfair, especially when India relies so much on China. Banning Huawei did not hurt the company because it redirected resources to more receptive Asian markets, exposing the Indian market's unreliability. This evolution showcases a shift in Chinese companies' approach toward the Indian market, from past leniency to current determination. Chinese companies do not trust Indian buyers, companies, the government, and their agreements. If India desires access to high-quality Chinese products, it must respect Chinese companies, abstaining from resorting to suppressive tactics. But India is doing the opposite. In mid-June of this year, Indian regulatory authorities seized Xiaomi assets worth 4.8 billion Chinese yuan, invoking allegations of illegal fund transfers to foreign entities. This confiscation amounts to 6 times Xiaomi's cumulative profits in India over the past 9 years. It showcased how unfairly India could go against a Chinese company. But a far more powerful message was also given. India does not respect foreign companies and will do whatever it wants. Notably, this isn't the first instance of such financial coercion. Chinese companies have been subjected to similar brazen extortion by the Indian government. Instances of this exploitation include Vivo's false accusations and the subsequent confiscation of 27,000 smartphones valued at nearly $15 million. Vivo suffered a seizure of $27 million worth of assets. Oppo's assets worth $38 million were also seized illegally by the Indian government. Now, India's shrewd mastery of legal tactics has been exposed. Chinese companies know that India skillfully uses these tactics to orchestrate covert maneuvers against foreign corporations. The Indian government skillfully uses existing laws to get back at past actions and sometimes even makes new laws to suit its revengeful goals. Even it isn't shy to make false claims when needed, all part of its tricky plan. People often try to portray that India can be an alternative for foreign companies and become a world factory. Perhaps they don't know the ground realities and the way the Indian government makes foreign firms hostile. In contrast, China's approach is clear and wise. China welcomes foreign investments and has an open market. Unlike India, China doesn't just focus on its own growth, it welcomes others. Take Tesla, for example. Even though Tesla competes with Chinese car makers like BYD, China welcomed Tesla's factory in Shanghai. When Foxconn returned to China, they were given a large 117-acre space for their headquarters. China does not engage in rivalry with companies because it's never a prudent decision. Governments are not supposed to do this. But India is different. It exposed the nature of business mentality by taking 4.8 billion yuan from Xiaomi, making them lose money for 10 years. Then they froze over 100 bank accounts of Vivo. Promised good things to Foxconn turned out to be empty. Wistron faced worker problems and had to leave India quickly. And insiders say India's business world is full of worry and problems. Numbers tell the story. Since 2018, over 550 overseas companies working in India ceased their operations. It's quite concerning for India to stop these companies from exiting. However, it's making them more hostile. For the companies thinking to shift to India, the Indian government is setting examples by banning and seizing foreign companies' assets.